Hello and welcome to another wilderness tamed video. Not a gardening video. This one I want to talk more about the conservation side of things and a general awareness and respect for wildlife. In particular, reptiles and amphibians, which if you're a follower, a subscriber, and if you look through some of my other videos, you'll know how passionate I am about amphibians and reptiles, or the collective term being herpetofauna. It's always a surprise to me how many people don't know that we have native amphibians in the UK, or reptiles. They don't know what they are, as in species, and they don't really know their sort of annual routines, their life cycles and things. I mean, everybody knows that frogs and toads and newts breed in ponds in the spring, but that's about as much as you can get out of them. As far as reptiles go, it's pretty much a blank slate. So today is the 17th of January. It's about 2:45 in the afternoon. It was 10 degrees Celsius in the car on the way here about an hour ago. And as you can see from the sky behind me, not a cloud in the sky. I've got my shades on because the sun is right in my face. And I'm out in County Durham in the North Pennines. And I'm out here because the conditions are perfect for reptiles to be out, just basking, not doing much of anything really, minding their own business. Now people might think, you're never going to see snakes and lizards in January. Well, those people don't know much about reptiles, because you can. The native adder is a really hardy snake. It can sit out and bask any month of the year, providing we've had 2 or 3 calm days with a bit of sunshine. And the temperature is anything above 4 to 5 degrees. Usually I generally tell people 6 degrees Celsius is enough to get them out from where they're not hibernating, brumating, which is a sort of a lesser degree of dormancy than full hibernation. Can't see a thing. I hope I'm looking at the camera. But the problem with that is the sort of mild conditions that we have had right through from November, December and this month, January, is that they're coming out to bask, not to feed or to mate or anything like that, but just to sit in the sun. But they're still burning off fat reserves that they've built up from the previous summer. So their diet consists of small rodents like shrews, voles, mice, common lizards they will take as well, and frogs and newts. And occasionally small ground nesting bird eggs, things like pipits and wheatears and stuff like that. Because the adder is not a big snake, some people are surprised at how small they are when they see them for the first time. I'm just looking across the valley at some heather burning, obviously another grouse moor. So yeah, conditions perfect here. The ground actually that I'm sat on is pleasantly warm. which obviously is where the snakes are. They're down on the ground, tucked deep into the vegetation, not really showing themselves too boldly out in the open, because they don't need to, especially our native reptiles are quite dark in colour, so there's a lot of melanin which allows them to absorb sunlight very quickly and warm up and get up to activation temperatures. So a mild winter like the one we've had, as I mentioned, is not actually brilliant for reptiles in that they're coming out to bask and then going back under cover for a few days or a few weeks when the weather changes, goes cold, and then you might get another couple of mild days and they come back out to bask. So all that constant up and down out of the hiding places where they're sheltering is burning off their fat reserves. So when it comes to March, April time, when they're thinking about finding a mate and courting, they've burnt a lot of energy off, and they sometimes just don't have the energy to find a mate or to feed. And quite often you will come across some quite emaciated looking individual snakes, which is quite sad. And now I want to get on to sort of disturbance levels. So people, as I say, are quite ignorant about reptiles. Here's a scenario I want you to imagine. You're at home, it's a nice afternoon or a nice morning. You decide to go and sit out in the garden in the sunshine, or even you're in your living room sitting in an armchair or a sofa watching a bit of TV or listening to a bit of music or scrolling on your phone, and uninvited, out of nowhere, comes a stranger, looks at you, doesn't like the look of you, and starts to beat you up, beat you to death, basically. Totally unprovoked, totally uninvited, into your home, the place you've lived for years, and because of some myth that you're a perceived threat, they decide to take a stick to you and beat you to death. That is the life, or the risk, that adders take, any snake, anywhere around the world. All they want to do is be left alone. They just want to do what we all want to do. Eat, sleep, occasionally have sex, and go about their daily lives, not bothering anybody. Despite tabloid headlines, no snake has ever attacked anybody. An attack is a premeditated thing that requires a thought process. Reptiles have very, very small brains, and there isn't much of a thought process going on. They act on instinct and stimulus. So, and venom is a very important resource to snakes, the venomous snakes obviously, in that it is a digestive enzyme. So it's purely there to help them subdue their prey and accelerate the digestive process, because their stomach enzymes are very slow. Most of you will be familiar with, wildlife footage of a python who's just swallowed a gazelle or a pig or whatever, and it's like got this huge lump in its belly. That will take possibly months and months to digest. It's the same for the smaller snakes in the UK, like the adder and the grass snake and smooth snake. Once they're fed, depending on the size of the prey, they're very vulnerable to then being eaten themselves, because they're quite immobilised by having a belly full of food, a bit like us after a Sunday lunch. So all they want to do is find shelter and chill out and relax. This business about, my dog was attacked when I was out walking the dog. No, I wasn't attacked by an adder. Your dog happened to stumble across an adder basking, minding its own business. The snake was so surprised, didn't have time to flee to cover. The only option it has, when faced with a huge snout in its face, is to defend itself. How does it defend itself? It strikes, bites, not always injecting venom, because as I say, it's quite a valuable resource. Sometimes they will just literally stick their nut on you. I've seen grass snakes do that. They will closed mouth strike, just like a headbutt, to try and get what they perceive as a threat away from them, and it's quite effective. So, get this idea out of your head that snakes wake up in the morning and think, ooh, who can I bite in the ankle today? It's just nonsense. And you get these journalists who don't research the subject whatsoever, don't even bother to contact somebody who might be qualified to talk about it, and just print a load of complete utter nonsense. Okay, I'll try not to rant too much. But going back to the people not knowing what lives in the country, it was brought home to me quite dramatically in a recent project that I ran for a local wildlife trust. I used to take school groups out around nature reserves, and we'd talk about habitats, and we'd sort of wander out from the field study centre and look at wetlands and woodlands and grasslands and things. And I'd say that we'd all stand around in a group, and I'd say, right, okay, we've got a wetland here, and we've got some trees and rushes and things, and what kind of animals might you find in this sort of habitat? And they were coming out with things like gazelles and hyenas and lions, and I was like, we're not in Tarangire National Park or Etosha Wildlife Reserve. We're in County Durham, near Hoteley Spring, Coolia Jets, and I put that down to the fact that they've watched the likes of David Attenborough, which is fine, but David Attenborough has spent many years travelling the world looking at animals around the world. I'm not sure he's ever done a series like Life in the UK. He did that undergrowth thing, didn't he? Some of that was like beetles and grubs, filmed in gardens and things. But very little wildlife of the UK on television. Don't get me wrong, I know that we've got Spring Watch and Autumn Watch and Wrist Watch and Country File, but their coverage of reptiles and amphibians is pretty slim when you compare it to the amount of stuff they put out about birds and mammals, and sort of watching porpoises from cliff tops and whale watching and stuff. There's very little. There's a very small percentage of coverage of reptiles. I mean, they do some, but it's I don't know whether people just glaze over or they switch off because they're terrified at the thought of seeing a snake on TV. But they're the very people who need to watch that, because phobias and fears are based on what? It's ignorance, isn't it? Nobody who's afraid of something knows anything about it. It's like racism. When have you ever found a well-travelled racist? So, the very people who need to watch programs or YouTube videos about reptiles and amphibians are people who are afraid of them, because knowledge encourages respect. I used to be afraid of spiders. Like, had a real problem with spiders. I decided that was just ridiculous, considering I was, full-grown adult male in the UK, so not that many spiders to actually be worried about. And started learning about spiders. Bought a little fold-out field studies guide to UK spiders, and I'll go out in the garden and find a spider and then look at the guidebook and find out what it is and then read about it. And that's how you build up the respect and knowledge. It's just knowledge, and then your fear dissipates. I watch a lot of stuff about sharks as well. I'm still terrified of the thought that sharks might evolve the ability to fly. Although there was Sharknado. It's just, I can't get over how stunningly beautiful it is today. What would I want to finish on? Again, respect for wildlife. There's a growing trend amongst people who are keen on taking photographs for actually disturbing the animals that they're photographing in order to get the shot. They're going down the TV herpetologist route of dragging the animal by the tail out from its hiding place, putting it, on a bit of bare grass or earth or a rock or a tree stump, and literally prodding it and poking it till it poses the way they want, or starts to strike so they can get a picture of the mouth and the fangs coming towards their lens, putting the animals under unnecessary stress, like certain TV herpetologists who seem to insist on just jumping on things and writhing about and thrusting them in front of cameras. It's a total lack of respect. That's not how you observe reptiles. If you want to learn how to observe reptiles, follow this link. It'll appear somewhere. It's another one of my videos. It's about distance, maintaining a respectful distance. It's the same with looking for any wildlife. You've got to understand how it works, how it thinks, if it thinks at all. In the case of reptiles, it doesn't happen. But their behaviour and their senses, and what is a snake's strongest sense? Taste and smell, the tongue. So you need to think about which way is the wind blowing. Again, I go into this in more detail in the other video that I pointed out the link to. So if you want to take good photographs of animals, don't interfere with them. Don't put peanuts out to attract squirrels and badgers. Just get good at stalking and sitting quietly and being patient. Again, at the end of most recent David Attenborough documentaries, they show you what the photographers go through in order to get the pictures, and they're not putting food out for the animals. They're not grabbing them by the tails and dragging them out from their hiding places and posing them to get the shot. They're being respectful, and they're being quiet, and they're enjoying the habitat and the scenery around them and the landscapes. When you just blend into that landscape, you can go anywhere, and you might create a bit of disturbance getting there, but if you sit and remain still and quiet for any length of time, whatever it is you've disturbed will start to re-emerge and start to venture closer to you. Sitting still and doing nothing is a great way to watch wildlife, and I would encourage you to do that even in your own garden. that's your homework for this week. Get that out there and enjoy yourselves. And on that final note, I bid you farewell. If you'd like to subscribe, that would be marvellous. You could click the like button. Ka-ching. That would also be good. And venture forth and ding the donger so you get notified when the next video comes out. That's the little bell icon, in case you're wondering what ding the donger means. It's a northern term. Please forgive me. Okay, on that note, I'm going to continue my wanders. I thought I'd take this little break just to ramble on for a bit. Take care, have fun, sit and relax.